Well, here it is, my big Taylor Swift moment. But in all seriousness, in my last post, I just touched on how I felt like the last decade of my life kind of prepared me for the events and things that have happened in the last year of my life, I would say. And one of those particularly, and the thing I probably felt the most prepared for, was my last relationship, the breakup in particular. And so I just wanted to kind of just talk about that and share my experience with you guys a little bit, to just kind of give you a little bit of what prepared me and how I got to where I am. In the past, I have dated, and there's a few specific relationships that I had that, and honestly, just in general, I feel like I have kind of always known my worth. I've always had a pretty good grip on who I am and where I stand, and sticking to that and not really compromising that too much. Not to say that I'm perfect at that, but in general, that's been something that I feel very blessed to have had a pretty steady foundation in. But it's that whole confusing love and unconditional love and commitment and loyalty thing that I have kind of struggled to find the balance with. And to just kind of give you the preface, there's one particular relationship that I can think of I had in the past where he wasn't good, and we were in a relationship, and I wanted to show him unconditional love, and I feel like I just stayed in it way too long, and I just thought that I had so much love in me, and I was so blessed to have a good life and a good mindset and a good family, and to know what love meant, and a good relationship with my Heavenly Father. And so I just felt like if I have all this love in me, I can just give and give and give, and it's fine. I don't need anything in return. And so I just stayed in this relationship and literally just ran myself empty, and just so far beyond what is healthy or good. And I want to make a point right here too, that a lot of times people will say, I'll tell people yeah, I've stayed in relationships way too long too, and they'll be like, oh really, how long did you date him? And I'll tell them 5 months, 6 months, 4 months, whatever. And they're like, oh, that's not long at all, you're good, kind of thing. But guys, think about this. As soon as we see or hit a red flag and we just brush on past it, and then see another red flag and sweep on past that one, that is too far. We've stayed in it too long. And if you see those red flags, we've got to address them and figure it out and find a resolve, or move on. If we see red flags and we just keep going, that's too long. The moment you step past that red flag is too far. It's too long into that relationship. So anyways, in dating this guy, once I finally and it took so much for me to be able to walk away from this relationship that I'm talking about. I had to pray so hard to know that it was okay for me to leave him, because I felt like he needed me. And in my prayers and in my communication with God, it just became so apparent to me that God needs me, and he needs me to be full, and he needs me to be my best self, and I couldn't be that with this guy. So I had to leave him and just trust that God would take care of him, because he loves him more than I ever could. And so that was just really hard for me. And when it all came down to it and I was done, I had so much more to clean up than just a breakup. I had to put myself back together, and I had to find myself again, and I had to find my worth, and I had to find my love for myself, and I had to just it was just so much more than just oh, we broke up and now I have to get over this guy. It was so much more work than that, and it took me a long time. And anyway, so after coming out of that relationship, I realized that as full of love as I am, and as much as I love to give and I want to be able to give, I do need an evenly yoked relationship, and in more ways than one. But particularly what stood out to me from this was I need somebody who is capable of loving me the way that I can love them, and who cares about me, and who wants my well-being. So then fast forward to the end of last year, I had probably 3 relationships back to back. And I use the term relationship loosely. Like, they were kind of just like, we dated, flings kind of thing. But all three of them just genuinely, like, hurt me. And were genuinely selfish. And were just, it was just to the point with dating that I was like, I am done. Like, back-to-back guys just being like the epitome of like what I hate about dating and what I've been so disappointed in. Like, that is the best word I can use for dating and for relationships that I've experienced, is that they're just disappointing. I've had a lot of guys that were actual jerks, that were like wrong and mean, but like there's a huge amount that is just thoroughly disappointing. So after these three relationships back to back that just kind of like put me at like an all-time low with dating, maybe not an all-time low, but seriously knocked me down, I decided I was done with dating. And I went through, I'm a big journaler. I really like to, like, I'm a thinker and I'm a writer. Like, that's how I sort through my thoughts. And I like it because then I can look back and see the lessons I've learned, see the progress I've made, or see where I'm tripping up on the same things. So and I've done this my whole life, where like I'll make a list, right? Like, of the qualities that I want in a guy. But as I would make the list and then date, I would realize like a lot of those things really weren't like non-negotiables, or really weren't things that were like that crucial to my happiness in a relationship. But after these few guys, I feel like I just had this perfect picture of like, okay, this is what I need in a relationship to be happy and to feel like fulfilled in a relationship. So it's like less than 10 things, and it was just on point, exactly what I want. And literally at the bottom of it, I wrote, and like, these are the reasons that I will stay single, because that's just where I was at, and that's how I felt with dating. And then my ex came along, and literally, like, I just, like he checked off everything on my list. And I know, like, a ton of people do in the beginning, right? Like, we all know that, like, people change, and people just don't continue to, like, treat you the way they did in the beginning. But I was so sure that he would, and I just, I don't know, it felt different with this guy. And I was so stoked that he literally like checked off this list of things that I feel like is such a like evolved list for me. And like, so anyway, super stoked that he checks these things off, and he does it through his actions. And that's the other thing, is like, he would say some things, right, but like his actions showed me everything that I needed to know. And I love that. And that's something I've really learned, is like, actions seriously speak louder than words. Like, I would rather somebody show me they love me day in and day out than tell me it. And anyways, so these things that I felt that he was really good at started to kind of slip away a little bit, and I would try to bring it to his attention. And when it came down to it, as like anybody who follows me on social media knows, like, I had decided to move and relocate to be closer to him. And in that move, like, I was giving up a lot, and it was like really a hard thing for me, because there was nothing pulling me to the area other than him. And there were things that I was leaving behind, and things that make me happy, you know? And my biggest fear is like losing myself in relationships again, because if I've learned anything, it's like you have to keep things that keep you happy, and you have to keep things that make you you, and you can't just conform and adapt. Like, yes, we have to do that to a certain extent to make relationship work, I'm sure, but there are certain things that, you know, you gotta hang on to, you gotta be happy. So when it came down to the actual move, like, and just everything in general, like, I just didn't feel like it was evenly yoked as far as like effort goes. Like, I didn't feel like it was a team thing, and I didn't feel like my happiness and my well-being was his biggest concern, and that was hard. And so literally the day before I was supposed to move down there, it all just hits me like a ton of bricks. And I just, like, my heart was just telling me, like, the way things are right now, like, I should not go. And mind you, I had sent down an entire truckload of all of my biggest, like, the bulk of my stuff that I needed down there. And so I knew I had to have a conversation with him. And so I called him after work that day, and we had a conversation, and it didn't go over well at all. Like, it was a hard conversation to begin with, and then it did not go over well. So when we finished our conversation, like, we were not on the same page. So I like went home, and I'm still just like packing my bags, and I was just like in tears. And I will say, like, I have a newfound respect or understanding kind of people who call off engagements or call off weddings. Like, it's so hard. But I couldn't deny what I was feeling in my gut and what I was feeling in my heart. And I knew that, like, this wasn't the thing for me to do with the way things were. And they weren't changing given our conversation. So the next morning, we talked, and I decided that I wasn't going to be coming down there anymore. And that was one of the hardest decisions that